On this episode of Cape Media News, students and veterans share stories at an intergenerational breakfast held in honor of Memorial Day. We track sharks on Cape Cod with white shark expert Dr. Greg Skolmel, and JetBlue touches down at Barnstable Municipal Airport, signifying the start of the summer season. These stories and so much more. It's Memorial Day weekend. This is Cape Media News. Welcome to Memorial Day weekend on Cape Cod. It's a time to remember those who served our country and a time to kick off what's expected to be another busy summer season. You're watching Cape Media News, your local authentic newscast. We've got such a great show for you today, so let's dive right in. Memorial Day, as we mentioned, is a time to remember those who served and those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our country. This week, Barnstable High School juniors broke bread with local veterans and had an opportunity to learn firsthand what war was like. It's Memorial Day weekend, and the Barnstable Senior Center held this annual intergenerational breakfast, bringing together war veterans and Barnstable High School juniors to share stories and experiences.
My name's John Alden. I was in the U.S. Army from 1961 to 64. It's just nice to meet with the students because I have grandchildren that are a little bit older than they are. And then I have grandchildren that are younger than they are, and great-grandchildren. And I just like interacting with the kids and letting them know that in those days we had a military draft.
It's kind of nice to, come in and hang out with veterans because we're in the middle of this topic right now, and it's really cool to hear people's stories and really enrich the fact that what we've learned in class through books and through videos, and actually get to talk to people and face-to-face and be more of like a more in-depth, more like an actual learning experience that would actually stick with me instead of just like reading something or watching a video.
It's interesting, to see like the difference and kind of compare it to what it is today, because they were all our age when they were out there. So I think it's interesting.
I just think it's good for them to hear what people who were in the military, what they went through.
I served in the South Pacific, as I was telling the boys here. I was aboard the USS Wharton in the convoy and landed in the Philippines. I was there about 11 months. And while I was home on Liberty, they dropped the two bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You'd think that after being bombed a couple of times, they'd say, well, it's about time we quit.
It's really good to kind of talk to a World War II veteran, in the flesh. You kind of get a better understanding of what happened, why that war was so significant, and all the places that were, stationed in. It's just an amazing thing to learn about. It's something that we learn about in history all the time. You hear a lot of media, but just hearing real stories is so much more authentic and different.
In history class, we learn about, say, different world wars and stuff like that, but as I agree with my friend Nick, it's really empowering just to get to talk face to face with the veteran and just hear the stories pass through the ears of the different generations. So it was really fun to listen to.
It's just good to get a new perspective on what goes on in the war that you wouldn't normally see in a textbook or anything that you wouldn't learn in school.
I was with a very secret organization. Nobody knew about it because we were doing something highly classified. We could do nighttime bombing of Korea, and they couldn't see us.
Really?
It was using radar. It was very novel at the time, and it was based on some mathematical concepts plus radar.
All the different stories, they're telling me a bunch of all the anecdotes. She was saying over here that she lived in a station area, so she saw all the first-hand encounters with all of the men and women working hard to support the troops and stuff, all the different ways, collecting cans and stuff. It's very interesting, yeah.
They should make a plan in their life and do something. It doesn't have to be military. It can be almost anything, But as long as you plan your life and you All I can say is obey the 10 Commandments and you got it made.
And that event was held at the Barnstable Senior Center this past Thursday morning. Coming up next, creating Camelot, and later we'll talk to shark expert Dr. Greg Stomel.
Hi, I'm Peter, and there's nothing I love more than sharing vegetables with my friends. Come on in, help yourself to anything. That's why we give our food the utmost respect it deserves. Did you know there are simple steps we can all take to help save food? You can cook it, store it, even share it. Just don't waste it. Because when it comes to food, better ate than never. To learn more, visit SaveTheFood.com.
The JFK Museum on Main Street in Hyannis welcomed more than 75,000 visitors last season. That's a record number, and they're hoping to increase those numbers with a brand new exhibit on loan from the Newseum in Washington, D.C. Creating Camelot tells the story of the Kennedy family in a way many have never seen before. The legend of Camelot comes alive at the John F. Kennedy Hyannis Museum through the eyes of Kennedy photographer Jacques Lowe. Creating Camelot opened this May at the Hyannis Museum.
Hyannis and Camelot are synonymous, and we have here the Creating Camelot exhibit that came from the Newseum in Washington, D.C. And it was put together about 4 years ago as a project that took what were contact sheets from a photographer named Jacques Lowe, that the negatives of which were lost in Building 2 of the World Trade Center in 9/11.
The images in the collection were painstakingly restored.
So there was very little left to put something like this together, but the Lowe Estate and the Newseum in DC decided that they would try their best, and it took an untold number of hours to take contact sheets and prints, which generally you can't get this quality from, and restore them and create a comprehensive digital archive of these photos. 70 of those restored images are part of the Camelot exhibit you see here today, on loan to us from the Newseum.
The images tell a story of family, community, and civic engagement.
So it captures in 40,000 images about 3 years of time together and personal access with President Kennedy, with Jackie, while he was in office, as president, in meetings. So they're very intimate photos, and they really give a great view of where Cape Cod was in the life of and the evolution of President Kennedy. And you really get to see how much of a personal family feel you will get looking at that. And then as you travel through the museum, you're following his campaign. The messages being that you can see that he engaged with people that he connected with. He was very visible and very approachable.
And it was really just a fluke that museum founder and curator Rebecca Pierce Merrick discovered the exhibit.
I just happened, in researching one day, to come across this exhibit and learned that it was created by the Newseum, and it was a traveling exhibit. And the fact that it was a traveling exhibit was so exciting. And I thought, oh, it's not possible that we can get this, that it would be available when we need it. And so John and I just jumped on it. We were both thrilled. And as it turned out, they had this summer through the fall open.
Also, you see the opportunities that they have to be themselves here and enjoy what Cape Cod is all about to all of us who live here. And so this personal feeling, this inspirational feeling, and the sense that here was someone that in my case, that I admired, and I was inspired in my own way as a young person when he was running for president, but more importantly as a president. And there are people all over the world today who see what's going on in the U.S. today, and there's a lot of similarities. And the leadership that you can see through President Kennedy, both by the example here, but by memory, frankly, are great memories that people talk about when they're in this gallery.
Creating Camelot is on display now at the JFK Museum on Main Street in Hyannis. For Cape Media News, I'm Sarah Colvin. And the JFK Hyannis Museum is set to open another exhibit on July 2nd, this one to commemorate Robert F. Kennedy as the nation marks the 50th anniversary of his death. The RFK exhibit is being put together in collaboration with the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Foundation. It'll feature images of his early years on Cape Cod as well as his presidential campaign. Coming up next, white shark expert Dr. Greg Skomal talks about tracking sharks on Cape Cod, and later, JetBlue starts its summer season flying in and out of Barnstable Municipal Airport.
It's a good program and I learn a lot and I have a lot to work with now, like how I come in like with a blindfold and now it's gone. So I have more opportunity, I have more ways of doing things and I learn a lot.
You know, my mentor Lauren, she helped me to dream again, and that was such a huge thing because I had stopped, and she not only kind of gave me a little bit more direction, but she gave me a lot of hope.
So my first experience with We Can, all I can say is holy cow.
Just because white sharks are here on Cape Cod doesn't mean you have to be afraid to go in the water. Scientists are studying the mysterious creatures in hopes of figuring out just why they come back year after year. Gabrielle Rawson caught up with Dr. Greg Skomal as he was rigging acoustic transmitters in Barnstable.
It's shark season on Cape Cod. We met with shark expert Dr. Greg Skomal in Barnstable last week to watch him rig 3 acoustic shark receivers.
Today I'm rigging up some acoustic receivers onto their buoys, and hopefully they'll be deployed in the next week or two, and we'll be able to detect whether any of our sharks that are previously tagged with acoustic transmitters are around.
The Barnstable Harbor Master will deploy these receivers from Barnstable Harbor, and 20 more are scheduled to go out over the next several weeks off the coast of Chatham.
So what we're using is multiple technologies on these sharks, and one of those technologies is acoustic technology. And all that really means is we're putting tags on the sharks that emit a very high frequency ping. And that ping is detected by receivers that we put in the water. So we've got receivers literally all over the state of Massachusetts, from Gloucester all the way south around the Cape, and then through Nantucket Sound, Vineyard Sound, even in Buzzards Bay. So we've wired up all of Massachusetts. But by far, most of our sharks spend their time on the outer Cape. And that's driven largely by the fact that there are a lot of seals there, and that's why the sharks are here.
Skomal's unique tagging process includes the use of a spotter pilot to locate sharks in the water.
We go up to each individual shark that the spotter pilot sees. We then try to take videotape of that shark for a study on the population size. And once we have good video of the shark, what I'll use is a very long tagging pole, and I'll insert an intramuscular dart at the base of the dorsal fin of the shark while it's swimming along. So we don't capture the shark, we don't handle the shark, we basically just place the tag on the shark while it's swimming.
Once a shark is tagged, scientists are able to collect good local data to determine the behaviors and seasonality of the white sharks.
We're going out twice a week, starting in June and going through October. And we're identifying, cataloging, and tagging as many sharks as we possibly can. And once we finish the study in early November of this year, there's a lot of data analysis and crunching and modeling to do, and that'll be done over the course of the next winter. But we're going to start thinking about what the next steps are with this particular population. I think all the towns that we work with are interested in carrying forth on learning more and more about this species, not only because they're interested, but because, for obvious reasons, there are public safety implications.
In addition to collecting data on location, population, and behavior, Skomal says the sharks may be doing something else while they're here.
We also have some data, very limited, that might indicate perhaps that adult males and females may be mating. And that's one of the major aspects of our research. We're trying to figure out if indeed that's going on. Now, nobody has ever seen a white shark mate. And so the likelihood of actually seeing that is really, really, really slim. But what we're looking at is the population demographics. Do we have adult males? Do we have adult females? Yes, we do. We have scarring patterns on both sexes, which might indicate, certainly indicate, that the sharks are interacting with each other at some social level. Is it actually reproductive biology going on there? Maybe, maybe not, so we're still looking into it.
Although Skomel has cataloged over 300 individual sharks in our area, he doesn't yet have a number on their total population size and encourages people to be mindful when out on the water.
Anytime that you've got the overlap of humans and a lot of human activity with sharks, specifically white sharks, you have the potential for interactions. That's a fact. Okay, we look anywhere in the world where we see these aggregations of white sharks overlapping with people, whether it be South Africa or Australia, California, you do get every now and then, extremely rare, an interaction where the shark will bite a person. So there is the potential for that. And we're very, very mindful of it. So we work really, really closely with all the towns to try to make sure that we're collecting the data and sharing the data with those folks about the patterns of these sharks, how they're acting, how they're behaving, and how to enhance public safety by providing that information.
You can stay up to date on shark activity in our area by downloading the app Sharktivity, which is updated regularly with data collected from Skomel and his team.
When we're on the water, when our plane is in the air, when we see sharks in close proximity to beaches, we notify public safety authorities at those beaches immediately. That information is put up on the Sharktivity app, and if there's any real danger to swimmers, those folks are pulled from the water. So we do that. What's important to realize, though, is that we're not out every day, okay? And when it comes to shark attacks and preventing them, there's no silver bullet. That's a fact. You know, places around the world have been dealing with this literally for hundreds of years, and it's not a problem that's easy to solve. Fortunately, we have not had any kind of fatal shark attack, because I believe that by working with the towns and educating the public about the presence of these animals, we can cohabitate with them. So it's a matter of us modifying our behavior to some extent so we don't expose ourselves to additional risk.
For Cape Media News, I'm Gabrielle Rawson.
We will learn more about the town of Barnstable's role in tracking sharks next week when we talk with Natural Resource Officer Chris Nappy. More to come. JetBlue is here, but first, sand sculptures are being created in Yarmouth. That story coming up next on Cape Media News. The Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce is gearing up for a busy summer season. Visitors to town will be welcomed with an array of artfully crafted sand sculptures. Gabrielle Rawson has the story.
You know it's summer when the sand sculptures return to Yarmouth.
So my name's Sean Fitzpatrick. I work for Fitzy Snowman Sculpting, and I'm here at the Yarmouth Visitor Center creating the first of the sand sculptures for the Sand Sculpture Trail. This is 15 tons and I'm almost done.
The Sand Sculpture Trail, we're very excited. It's the first year that the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce will be overseeing this initiative, and we're really excited about that. We think this is a huge draw for Yarmouth. People come from all over looking for our map and the trail every year.
Master sculptor Sean Fitzpatrick is the creative genius behind the trail. We got a chance to learn how they're made.
So people always ask me, what is this? Is it just sand? It is sand. It's not beach sand though. It's the type of sand that you would use if you were to go to a construction yard and you wanted to do some brickwork, except it's a lot finer. If I were to compare this to something, I would say it's almost like powdered sugar. It's super, super fine, but the grains of sand are all square. So when you get square grains, they're a lot easier to stack and compress together than if you had round grains, which would be like stacking bowling balls. So what I do is I take the sand and I compact it into forms, wooden forms, and the forms are 2 feet tall, and then stack the next form on top of that until I get to the very top. Once all the sand is compacted, then we take the form off, start carving, and we can stand on the forms as we're working, so that we don't need ladders or scaffolding or anything. And then when that's done, we take the next form down, and here we are, all the forms are off. Everything has been carved, the back is all carved, and as soon as it's done, I'll spray it with a light solution of Elmer's glue and water. And what that does, much like the paint on your walls, is it protects it, but it's not structural in any way. So the structure itself is held together by just sand and water, and it's just a matter of compacting it, and then it's a matter of just relying on physics, because sand wants to stick anyway.
The next delivery of sand will be coming the second week of June, and we're actually getting 90 ton of sand delivered, which will do the next 30 sculptures in town. We'll be printing 20,000 maps this year for people to pick up. They'll be able to get them at their hotels or their restaurants. So all of the businesses that will have their sculpture, they'll actually have the maps as well, so people can get one and move along to the next sculpture. In the past, we have done a larger sculpture at the Bass River or Smuggler's Beach. This year we've decided to move it a little bit off of the beach just because of the damage that it gets from the wind and the storms, and we think it'll be much more protected here, but definitely visible. We strive very hard to make sure that Yarmouth is represented as a family-friendly destination, and this is a perfect opportunity to do that.
Trail maps are available at the Yarmouth Visitor Center and online at the town's website. For Cape Media News, I'm Gabrielle Rawson.
And again, you can find the sand sculpture map online at yarmouthcapecod.com. Planes, trains, and automobiles, however you choose to come to Cape Cod, it's happening. Memorial Day weekend is here. It marks the start of our seasonal tourist season. Some savvy travelers have chosen to come to the Cape by air. We met up with them at Barnstable Municipal Airport this morning. 93 people arrived on Cape Cod today, didn't have to sit in a second of traffic. JetBlue is back for another season, flying in and out here at Barnstable Municipal Airport. You guys just got off the JetBlue flight. How was your flight to Cape Cod?
It was terrific. Smooth landing, up and down within 40 minutes. Yeah, it was great.
Easy. So it was super convenient. I'm actually going to Nantucket for the weekend, so we're connecting here for a few hours. So going to hang out and go get breakfast across the street. But it was definitely the easiest way for us to get to the island, and it was also the most affordable option. So
that's fantastic.
All around.
So have you been to Nantucket, Cape Cod before?
I have, and it's beautiful, and this makes it, I think, a lot more accessible, so we don't have to take the ferry or drive 8 hours.
Last year when we started the season about this time, we didn't have this many coming in, so this is very gratifying to see the numbers, because we think there's a market here and we want to serve that market for a longer season, and we've been trying to convince JetBlue to do that. We're just happy that they're here, but we'd really like to see them come in more frequently and for a longer period of time. We've proven that we can get these planes in and out, we can prove that we can handle the passengers, and we'd like to see that market continue and grow, and we're continuing to try to market the airport to other air carriers as well.
So we've got some Cape Codders with us today. What made you decide to take the JetBlue here to Cape Cod?
We wanted to not cross the bridge in our car.
Easy enough.
And we wanted to get out of New York fast.
Well, last year at least, and the year before, I guess, when they started it, there was only one flight a day. It'd be great if there were 2 flights a day. But it is what it is. It's really good.
Great. And so how was your flight this morning?
Terrific.
Unbelievable.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Friendly pilot. He was in a great mood. It was the beginning of summer. Everyone was ready to go.
This year, flights will run Friday and Monday of Memorial Day weekend, Fridays and Sundays from June 1st through the 10th, and they'll run daily from June 14th through Labor Day. And of course, it is Memorial Day weekend. There are a number of ways to commemorate the holiday. The town of Barnstable's annual Memorial Day parade kicks off at 10 a.m. Monday from the Centerville Library. It'll head down Main Street to Monument Square for a brief program, then continue to Beechwood Cemetery for the main program. At 12:15 Monday, the John F. Kennedy Memorial Trust Fund ceremony will be held at the JFK Memorial on Ocean Street. That's next to Veterans Beach in Hyannis. Yarmouth will hold its Memorial Day ceremony at 11 o'clock Monday at the Yarmouth Town Hall front lawn. The Dennis Parade begins at 9:30 Monday morning from the corner of Signal Hill Road and Route 6A. That proceeds down 6A to the Dennis Village Green. Memorial Day in Harwich gets underway at 9:30 in the morning at Brooks Park and Harwich Center with music by the town band and remarks from guest speaker Major Gregory Quilty. The town of Chatham's Memorial Day ceremony, it starts at 10 a.m. at the Chatham Community Center. That includes members of the Chatham VFW and American Legion, the Chatham Coast Guard, Color Guard, and more. Thank you to all who served, and thank you for watching Cape Media News. As always, you can stay up to date with us online. We've added a new video section to our website where you can watch episodes of Cape Media News and individual stories. Visit us at capemedia.org. Wishing you a happy Memorial Day weekend. I'm Sarah Colvin. Thank you for watching Cape Media News.